And we are live. My name is JP Berg, and this is Dumb the Wiser. Today, as you can see, we have special guest Nico Lagan with us. How you doing, brother? You're muted there, bro.
It's easy to put yourself on mute, but taking it off is a different story. Thank you. What's going on? Nice to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to have you on, man. I was thinking we would just keep it really informal today and just go over some of the problems we see in Canada. We were speaking briefly prior to the stream, and what we were saying, one of the biggest problems with some of the social media platforms is a lot of people that are very disingenuous. We can kind of hypothesize on what their motivations are. But one thing's for sure, they're not endeavoring to tell the truth to the electorate. They're just engagement farming. Maybe they're establishment shills. What are your thoughts?
You know, that's the hard question, because they're easy to identify. Some of the biggest accounts in Canada, the Jasmine Lane of this world being the example that come up to my mind all the time. She grew exponentially over the past year and a half. She comes from, a broadcasting background, and she claims to be the opposite of CBC, for example. And it's interesting because I look at those accounts and I notice that they do the exact same thing as CBC does. They talk about what CBC talks about. They don't talk about what needs to be spoken about. They talk about what mainstream media wants you to talk about, but because that's how you get clicks. That's how you get views. That's how you get people to watch your stuff, is by always repeating the same narrative. They sell the idea that they are coming from an opposite view, yet their leader, Pierre Poilievre, is one of the biggest cowards in Canada. He's been in politics for 20 years, hasn't done shit. Hasn't done anything to make Canada better. The only thing he did is better his career. He's a career politician that really couldn't care less about Canada. And for the people out there that don't like when I say it, you know what? Look at the facts. November 7th, he had the opportunity to vote the government down. He had the opportunity to trigger an election. Nobody was talking about this except me. It blew my mind that nobody was talking about this. But on November 7th, he could have voted against the Liberals' budget. He could have voted in favor of the Bloc's amendment to the budget, which the NDP was in favor of. If the Conservative would have voted for those amendments, the government would have fallen. We would have triggered an election, but he kept on saying that we don't want an expensive, a costly election. We want an affordable budget. Right then and there, I don't know what else more you need, considering that 10 days after, he was acting, all the Conservative was standing up in the House of Commons. We are voting down this budget. Yeah, because it didn't fucking matter anymore, you fucking coward. So it blows my mind that the people that call themselves conservatives did not report on this, did not speak up about this. I was the only one that was reporting on this as it was happening. And I fully know that they know, because they follow this stuff as much as I do. But they chose not to speak about this, because guess what? It would have made Pierre Poilievre and the whole Conservative Party look bad. And that is one thing that they don't do. That is one thing that the Conservatives, and I'm air quoting here, the big C Conservatives in Canada, don't speak against the Conservatives. They only speak against the Liberals. But that's not real, because the Conservative are as responsible for the mess that we find ourselves in right now. They've lost 4 elections now? 4 elections in a row they lost. 11 years of Liberal policies, they still cannot win an election. Is it the fault of Canadians? Or is it maybe the fault that our leaders are not conservatives and they're not pushing conservative values? And this is the biggest problem that I'm seeing in Canada. There's no such thing as real conservative politician. They're all liberal. They're all some type of liberals. They're right-leaning liberals, but they're still liberals. And we keep encouraging them. And by saying we, I'm speaking for content creators, the independent journalists, however you want to call us. People keep supporting them because they don't want to admit that they're as bad as the other side. This is not a left versus right issue. The issue is stop elites versus us. And guess what? Your favorite politician is part of the problem. He's not the answer. And that's
Yeah,
the
it's
part that blows my mind, that we are not talking about more. Well, no, you know what? Let me backtrack that. It doesn't blow my mind because I know why they don't do that, because it doesn't bring views, it doesn't bring engagement. People need to be sold the idea that the left versus right matters. And I've spoken to most of those people personally, and I know that they're not idiots. They're not stupid. So they're either bought off, they either do it on purpose because they don't want to lose their views, they don't want to lose their followers, or having an interview with our politicians is enough to keep them in line. I don't know which one it is, but no matter which one it is, they're not stupid. Those people are not idiots. So they're
yeah,
doing it for a reason.
I
I
agree.
don't know what that reason is, but no matter what it is, it ain't good.
Yeah, it's impossible to quantify why they're doing it, but it's very evident at this point that there's a preponderance of them that are being disingenuous. Maybe they were granted access. They got an interview with Pierre Poilievre. Maybe it's because of their engagement on X, but you see them, you see fake leftists too, which most of them in Canada, like, but you're seeing this synthetic discourse, and it's just keeping people trapped in this left versus right thing while their agenda is being implemented. I believe the conservatives in Canada are controlled opposition. I think all the powerful ones are in on it. And what Pierre Poilievre is doing now, he's acting as a pressure release valve for Canadians that aren't paying attention. They're looking on what's going on. Oh, it's the dumb libs. It's these dumb libs. We got to get Pierre in there. And that's so far from reality. It's scary. And that's the consensus amongst people that lean to the right in Canada.
You're bang on. I couldn't agree more. He is controlled opposition. He does just enough to give the illusion of choice. That's what Pierre Poilievre's responsibility is. And that guy is ready to sacrifice Canada in order to become PM. He does not care that it's going to take another 4 years for him to become PM. But 4 years from now is going to be too late for a conservative. The damage is already going to be done. That's going to be, it's 3 years, not 4 years, obviously, because we're almost 1 year in of Mark Carney. So it's just over 3 years. But that will mean 14 years of liberal policies. That will have completely decimated Canada's economy. You can see the track that we're on right now. And yet, the leader of the opposition, air quoting here, opposition, would rather play it safe to become PM. So no matter how you look at it, even if you don't believe that he is controlled opposition, why didn't he trigger an election? Because he was scared to lose his seat again. He was scared he wouldn't get elected again. So instead of having balls and doing the right thing for Canada, changing his narrative to free speech, they are coming after our free speech. We cannot let that happen. We need to stop mass immigration. We need to start remigration. We need to stop globalist influence in Canada and become Canada first. Those are three simple things that he could rewire his own message in order to win as prime minister. But he doesn't even have the balls to say that women can't have penises. He's been asked that question so many times, and he just tried to act cool like he was eating that apple fucking 20 years ago. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but that's his only good moment from years ago. And he's more focused on trying to recreate that moment, being witty, sounding smart, than actually being smart and doing the right thing for Canada. That's what drives me absolutely nuts with that guy. Yes. I would love to have a one-on-one with that guy, but he doesn't have. His wife would never allow it.
Well, he's only going on these shill accounts. Oh, he's doing podcasts. Who's he doing with these people that are playing along with it all? But what we get from Pierre Poilievre is feckless rhetoric. It's scripted. He avoids every contentious issue. A real leader, a leader that Canada needs right now, has to get into this and take a hard stance and then convince the electorate why we should go in this direction. And everything you mentioned is obvious. Like, if you're semi-conscious and you're not suffering from cognitive dissonance, you could see the biggest problems in Canada right now because they're very evident. Number one is the mass migration. The implications of that are affecting everything in a tremendously bad way. They've not even turned the taps off yet. Forget about a policy to start to reverse this. We've not even stopped it yet. We're just a mess, man.
But I think our biggest problem is not mass immigration, it is free speech. This is the biggest problem because we lose free speech. There's a good reason why free speech, the First Amendment, right?
Mhm.
If you look at the US, free speech, the First Amendment, then the second's to have the guns to make sure you can get rid of the government that is going after your free speech. It is the most brilliant piece of legislation ever made, if you ask me, the First and Second Amendment. You don't need much more than that. Then this is the biggest problem we have in Canada. Nothing else matters if you don't have free speech, if you're not allowed to say what needs to be said, that your government's going to imprison you. Just look at what's going on in Iran. What did they just do? They close off the internet. Why? Because they want to censor people. They want those videos to stop leaving Iran. They don't want themselves seen as killing people in the street for protesting an Islamic regime. What do they always do? This is a favorite tool of tyrants. Censor people, prevent them from spreading the truth. And again, the conservatives are barely talking about this. Like, you have a few backbenchers that nobody cares about that are talking about this. The leader of the opposition doesn't even have the balls to address free speech. Look at all those major accounts that I talk about. They will touch on free speech, but never in a way where it's an ultimatum. We are looking at the downfall of Canada right now. 2026 will be the most destructive year in Canada if what it has continued to happen in 2025 continues to happen in 2026. It just came out that the UK is looking at banning X for the type of deep fakes, the sexualized deep fakes that they can create. Yet Grok is the problem. So they're going after X by using Grok because it is integrated to Grok. But the funny part is that ChatGPT can also create deep fakes. So can Gemini. And I use Grok and Gemini every day for some research. And you know what? I asked Gemini, and Gemini admitted that there's a double standard, because by the logic that the UK is using, that means that YouTube should also be banned, because Gemini is directly connected to YouTube like no other AI, like Grok is integrated to X, and it can create deep fakes. So by their own definition, YouTube should be banned. But Gemini admitted to me, and I have it on recording, that there is a double standard because Google, their parent company, plays balls with government recommendations. So whatever recommendation the government makes when it comes to social media, YouTube, Meta follows them, and you don't have to go further than the COVID to see that they will ban anybody that talks against vaccination, that talked against what the government was doing. I was one of them. I never got my accounts back. I had to restart those accounts. So they played ball, X doesn't. Canada is in talks right now. Evan Solomon, our Minister of AI and Innovation, is saying, no, we're not banning X, but we have been in conversation with the UK to kind of figure out something. They don't say what they're talking about. We all know what the fuck they're talking about. But he admitted that that they are talking, although they're not banning it. And that's why I'm bringing it up. So that means that they are looking at X right now. They are looking at banning a platform that the guy is so rich that he doesn't need, love or hate Elon Musk, thinks he's a Satanist or the worst person on the planet. That's fine. I get it. But why are the government only going after X and not going after Meta, not going after Facebook, Instagram, TikTok? Why are they? And yet TikTok is controlled by the CPP, but they're not going after TikTok. That should tell you a lot. But this is the situation in which we are in. And obviously they're not covering this. They're not covering this, saying that Pierre Poilievre's not doing anything about it. Has he been speaking against this? Has he been calling out even Solomon to say, hey, bro, why are you even talking to the UK about this? We don't care about what the UK does. Censorship is not what Canada does. We believe in free speech. This is what we need in Canada, yet does not have the balls to say it. So unless he has the balls to say something, the conservative shills will not address it, or will barely talk about it. We'll always be careful. One thing that I've noticed is every single person on the conservative side is very careful about what they say, how they say it, not only to not piss off the conservative leader and to make sure that they can continue having those great conversations with Pierre Poilievre, they can continue having politicians on their show, but they make sure to never piss off the algorithms. Whatever the platform that they're on, they will only say what they know can be said, never to lose views, never to impact their views. And this is the problem. The biggest content creators, journalists in Canada, no matter if they're left or right, are more concerned about views. They're more concerned about keeping their base than they are about speaking the truth. And if you're a Christian, for the Christians out there, that's another thing that you're starting to see. You're starting to see those accounts becoming Christians or starting to talk about Christianity. And I'm like, bitch, please. You ain't no fucking Christian. You're pro-choice. You cannot be pro-choice and be a Christian at the same time. You cannot condone the murder of the unborn and be a Christian. You're not. So you can quote the Bible all you want. Maybe you should start reading your fucking Bible instead of just quoting it for the masses. But those are all the little tricks that I'm seeing. Like one of my, I can't remember who the guest was, but one of my guests referred to it as Christians for clicks. And that's what we're starting to see in Canada now. That bothers the hell out of me. Like that really pisses me off.
It's also disingenuous, man. It's it's really transparent. That's what gives me hope. Like people are starting to see it now. Like they're critical.
Are they?
I'm critical.
Are they?
Well, some are. It's like I said before, man. It's a process, right? It has to reach it. But I think a lot of their momentum is artificial too. There's bot farms that are propping up a lot of these accounts. And they'll come after you too when you're critical of them. It's amazing how locked down this is. That's what makes me think maybe there's other forces involved here beyond just the incentive structure. But I mean, what we're seeing the governments do now is endeavor to not just censor free speech, but to ideologically isolate their populations. Like Stalin had the Iron Curtain, and von der Leyen in the EU, she calls it the democracy shield. There's no difference between these two things, and they function in the same capacity. It's an endeavor to ideologically isolate people from other views that go against the party. So I mean, it's phenomenal. I think we should call it the irony curtain, because the fact that they're still utilizing this term, democracy, means nothing anymore, especially with the Commonwealth countries. When you look at all the parallels in the Commonwealth countries, it's an agenda being implemented. We see it all through the EU as well. We've seen some resistance in Poland and Hungary with Viktor Orban. But beyond that, man, this was a push. It was like a cultural revolution. And we're seeing it get kinetic in America now. Like you've seen the shots coming out of Minnesota. A lot of these are paid agitators, but like it's nuts, man. There's riots in Minnesota over the deportation of criminals and illegals.
And for the people that are not aware of this, there are such a thing as paid protesters.
Mm-hmm.
I had the president, the original guy that started this crap years and years and years ago, and he is open about it. They send paid protesters. You can contact them. They'll send you some protesters for whatever you need. He says that they don't do it for the money, but yeah, of course not. Mm-hmm. Having a business that doesn't do things for money, right? Okay there, buddy. Could not. I really dislike that guy. He's the only guy that I couldn't stand. Of the hundreds, if not thousands of people I've had on my show, he is the only guy that I actually called him a hypocrite. I called him names in his face. I could not stand that guy. But those exist. Those are a real thing. You can pay to have protesters show up, and you're not. The irony is that the company is not responsible. There's nothing in the US and in Canada that can hold them accountable, because they are just working as a temp, basically. Mm-hmm. They're just temporary. They don't represent the company. The company just find them jobs, basically. It's absolutely insane that exists. And then when you talk about the Iron Curtain, Arthur Pawlowski, the pastor out of Alberta, talks about this all the time for considering that he was under the Iron Curtain. He talks about it all the time, and it blows his mind that here in Canada people can't see it. Yesterday I had Salman Sami. I don't know if you know who that guy is, but he is an Iranian that was imprisoned by the Iran regime. He left about 14 years ago, so 2011. So he was in prison he did 3 terms of prison. He was one of those protesters right out of university. And he was on my show. He was on our show yesterday. And that's what we were talking about. Even to him, he considers himself a Muslim, which after hearing his views, I don't think he's a Muslim. I think he believes in God and he comes from a Muslim country, so he thinks he's Muslim. I don't think so. But the point I'm trying to make is that even him agreed with everything we're talking about right now, that there's the problems that we're seeing are left versus right. They keep on selling the idea of division between the left and the right. Mm-hmm. And your favorite conservative is doing the same thing. They're not doing anything different. They always blame the other side like the problem is fellow Canadians. The problem is our leaders, not fellow Canadians. And when I say leader, I don't care which party you represent. They don't even care about the party they represent. Have you ever seen how familiar and jolly they are together? When they're not arguing, they get along. Why? Because they're all on the same fucking team.
Yeah, bro.
They all play together. Just look at the Pledge of Allegiance. When we live streamed the new minister ceremony, where they pledge allegiance
to the crown,
to the king. Exactly. And people don't realize that our politicians, our military, swear allegiance to the crown, not Canadians. They don't pledge to us. They pledge to whoever leads the Commonwealth. So if you believe that the king has a ceremonial title, that he doesn't do anything, you're sadly fucking mistaken. Because just as you said, is it a coincidence that Australia, that's a Commonwealth country, that the UK is a Commonwealth country, that Canada is a Commonwealth country, are all going in the same direction? We're just at different stages right now.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing to lend credence to that assertion. Because, like, we're far past the point now where we could be called paranoid for realizing this. I think we're at the point now where if you don't realize this, you're likely naive. Or, again, you're suffering from some profound level of denial that's incomprehensible, because it's very evident. But what we're seeing with the whole thing in Canada, and a lot of people are politically and economically illiterate in Canada, especially. We're apathetic, we're complacent, but they don't even understand the fundamentals of our Westminster parliamentary system. Like, our Senate is entirely appointed for life. They serve till they're 75. Our judiciary has been stacked through Trudeau's reign with radical left globalists. They're there to push an agenda. It's like a clusterfuck of tyranny. I mean, we require generational reform, politically and even economically. It's funny, man. I go deep on the conspiracies at times, man, and you hear the different things. It's the Zionists, it's the Anglo-American establishment. Sometimes you hear people say it's a Catholic Church, it's the Jesuits. I'd say it's a mix of all of that. But the one thing that's undeniable, we couldn't quantify who it is, but one thing is undeniable: the way they control mankind is through the financial system, through fiat currency, fractional reserve banking. We've delegated people the ability to print money and loan it to our countries at an interest rate. So, I mean, and then we're going to have a real conversation like they're not leveraging influence over our politicians. It's a joke. We're at the kayfabe point where it's just a big act, man, a performative charade to provide you and I and all the other peasants with the illusion of participatory governance. It's all a show, man, and it's wild to see it playing out. At the same time, though, I don't want to be a total black pill. Every day, more Canadians wake up. And we're all trying, and there's a bunch of shills over us, but every real independent voice in Canada, and there's lots of them, we're under all the shill accounts, but I mean, we're all screaming the same message. And we got to keep screaming until our voices synchronize and resonate, and we can actually reach some people and wake them up, because there's no other way. Most people can't even see the battlefield presently. They don't even know where the war is, right?
I think it's too big of a pill to swallow. I
Yeah.
talk about this all the time. It's a very big pill to swallow to admit that the whole government is not there to help you, that they don't care about you, they don't like you, they don't see you as their equal. So it's not, people don't want to destroy that dream. They don't want to believe that our voting system is not rigged. They really want to believe in the fact that we can vote ourselves out of what is happening right now, which we can't.
Hmm.
We just can't. And it's very simple. Here's a perfect example. During the last election, there's a riding called Terrebonne, right outside of Montreal, right outside of where I am, that the Liberal won by one vote. The Liberal representative, out of like 60,000 votes in that riding, she won by one single vote. Then it turned out that Elections Canada gave pre labeled envelope if you wanted to vote at a distance, right? You wanted to vote before the election. Turned out they made a mistake. The postal code was incorrect on the pre-filled envelopes, and multiple letters came in after the election. And there's a woman that was one of them that had voted for the Bloc MP, which is the one that got beat by one vote. They decided not to count it, although they made the mistake. Election Canada made the mistake on their envelope. There's multiple, I saw reports, at least 10 people were in that same situation as her, and yet they chose not to address it. They never apologized for the mistake that they made. They refused to do it because it would be, oh, we don't want to, paraphrasing here, they don't want to piss off the people that voted for the Liberals, basically, is what they said in their ruling. So we have a government that is telling us that some votes are more important than others. And if you look at Animal Farm by George Orwell, all animals are equals, but some animals are more equal than others. And that's where we are right now. But this right there proves to you that our government will make a mistake, not apologize for it, not take the right actions to change the mistake or to fix the mistake that they made, and they will keep the same result. I don't know what more you need in order to doubt our whole system. How many more times did that happen? But we just didn't hear about it because mainstream media didn't talk about it. And this is the problem, right? But people have faith, but they cannot be convinced that it's all fake, because that would mean giving up their identity, that their voice matters, in a sense that we were sold, that you can vote for a better party. And this is the black pill moment. It's not even a red pill. It's not, it's really, it sucks. It really, really sucks to think that this is the case, but it is a sad reality that people don't want to admit. And unfortunately, it's going to need to get worse before it gets better. And I think that Bill C2, C8, C9, C12, C16, and the new Bill C63 will have to pass in order for people to wake up. We're going to need to become the UK. We're going to need to arrest 12, 13,000 people a year in order for people to see that our government is censoring us. And this is not a left versus right problem. It is a top versus bottom problem.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's going to need to get worse, man.
I say the same thing and I come to the same conclusions frequently on this show. But when you look at that last federal election, it was almost it was hilarious. Like they bring in Carney, they kick two leading people running for the Liberal leadership race out, and then they essentially install Carney. Look at Pierre Poilievre's district. They did redistricting. And then he lost his own seat. And the man still didn't have anything to say about that. That should tell you everything you need to know. There's so many examples to point to Pierre Poilievre to say, like, this guy is fake. He's in on it 100%. But again, it's like you say, there's a cognitive dissonance. It's too scary for them to make that realization, because that kind of redefines their whole worldview. And so many people aren't ready to do that. It's very uncomfortable, like you stated, man. And initially you think, well, I'm nuts. I got to be fucking crazy. You know what I mean? And then you do more exploring, you talk to people, you read books. I mean, there's tons of literature regarding how systemically corrupt the Western democracies have always been. Going back to 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act, all of the various NGOs, going right back to like the Rhodes Foundation, the Milner Group, and then to the modern equivalency of that today. We have Open Society, George Soros Foundation, the Bill Gates Foundation. These are the ways
the birds, the WEF.
Yeah, 100%. They're all districts of the same power network that is running the world. Now, it's funny because how old are you, Nico?
43.
43. I'm 42. I'll be 43 this year. So, I mean, the world we grew up in, we were under the impression that this was the free world. We had a lot of privileges, but this was never the free world. We were in a psyop. We've been ideologically subverted in all these different ways to believe all these premises about reality. And we've been led away from Christ, any semblance of God. And that's the biggest attack. They led us away. You go back to Canada in the 1960s, the early 1960s, 80% of people were Christian of some denomination. And just slowly they attack the family. You see feminism. You see all the subversion happening within the school curriculums. And slowly and gradually we're moved away from God. I heard this quote once. It was it's an American philosopher named Will Hepburn. He calls it a cut flower analogy. It's like if the Western democracies, which were formerly known as Christendom, if the Western democracies were a beautiful flower, then the soil that grew that beautiful flower was Christianity. That was why we had prosperous, free, beautiful societies. So once you remove that flower, when you cut the flower from the soil that sustains it, you watch that flower, it'll keep its beauty for some time, but inevitably it'll start to wither and die. And that's just the perfect analogy for what's happening with the West right now, man. And I mean, honestly, when we get back beyond all of the craziness of the politics, the synthetic aspect of it, what's real, I mean, Christ is real, and we have to come back that way. And I truly believe that. I know that sounds, to people that aren't believers, that sounds silly. But if we wish to share truth again, it's through one conduit, and his name is Jesus Christ. That's just how I feel.
You don't even need to be a Christian to understand that Canada and the US was founded on Christian values. And, you know, I have some atheist friends like my co-hosts, and my co-host always tells me that he doesn't want to live under any other type of country unless it's Christian. He wants to live under a Christian country because that is the only country that will give him the freedom to be an atheist. Can't be an atheist under a Muslim country, I can tell you that much. And if you're under a Christian country, they normally have some sense of justice based on the Ten Commandments. We have some sense of social want. We want to help others because that's what Christians are supposed to do. We're supposed to serve others. And that's why I do what I do, not because I enjoy this, because unfortunately I'm very good at it, but that's what I'm being told to do. So that's what I do. But this is where we need to come back. We need to go back to Christianity. And this is exactly why, like I was saying earlier, some of those accounts are calling themselves Christians now.
Yeah.
They fully understand that there is a move. Christians have always been the counter move. They've always gone against the flow. That is the whole point, is if your government is doing something and the Christians are not following, ask yourself a question. Because we can argue that we were violent at one point. There were branches of Christianity that were violent, but the original message was never about violence. It was always the complete opposite of violence. That doesn't mean that you need to be complacent and let others bully you around. That is not what it means at all. Unfortunately, a lot of Christians see it that way. But we do need to go back to a time where we do believe in very fundamental realities, that the truth is more important than anything else. What does the Bible tell you? That if you don't speak the truth, God will spit you out. You can't be a lukewarm Christian. You just cannot. You have to say what is true. If your God, the person you believe to be God, died on the cross for your sins, that sets a precedent for you. That is the type of person you should be. tell the truth no matter the consequences of that truth. I will not meet my God making excuses as to why I didn't do this and I didn't do that. I might meet him a lot sooner than I want for having done what needed to be said, to having done what needed to be done and say what needed to be said. But that is your obligation as a Christian. And again, that's why they're starting to associate themselves with Christians, because they are seeing the counter movement will be Christian. They're starting to really understand that this is who will stand up to this, because we've always stood up to this.
Yeah. And I mean, from a purely secular standpoint, because I know a lot of my audience are atheistic, kind of like your co-hosts, they're secular people. But I mean, let's just talk logically. And speaking of logic, the concept of a logos, without a core, without a general acceptance, a centralized ethic to guide our societies by, then we're in postmodernism. We're in moral relativism. There's no meta narrative that makes sense. So we have to at least, and again, I'm not saying you have to be a Christian, but we have to understand that that's the truth. That's how we're going to organize our societies, based around the morals of a Christian ethic. And if you don't like that, you can get the fuck out right away. Like, no question. Like, you don't have to practice Christianity, but our laws are premised on this. Our customs are premised on this. And we have to get back there ourselves, man.
Look at Poland and the mess that Europe is. Look at Poland. They're basically the only country that refuse mass immigration, that stick to their Christian philosophies. Look how well they're doing compared to every single country in the EU. Do you think that that's a coincidence? There's nothing wrong with saying that some cultures don't align. I do not believe that Muslims and Christians can live together unless Christians are the majority. And they understand that they are the majority, and they understand that their country is Christians, and you don't let them do what they want like we've allowed them to do in Canada. The only 100%. Way that Christians and Muslims can get along is if Christians are in control, because we are tolerant.
That's historically accurate too. You can't refute that statement, because you could point to a ton of countries where that's the case. The minute Islam becomes a majority, Iran being the most relevant one.
Lebanon,
that's right.
Lebanon and Iran right now. I have friends that are Lebanon that left Lebanon in the 90s because it was overtaken by Muslims. And you know what? It was their fault. They won't have any problems admitting that they let Muslims take over. Same thing happened in Iran. What's happening right now?
Yeah.
You can argue all you want that it started for hyperinflation, but the whole point is that they want their freedoms back, and under a Muslim government, it ain't happening.
Yeah, well, we have to start to stand against that collectively. We're seeing some of it, but again, and it goes back to the topic of this conversation, man. Canadians aren't following this. You and I, we can't look away. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people just like us that are doing this. We're out, we're speaking, we're trying to educate other people, but the vast majority of people are too busy. They don't understand it. They don't have a mind to do research like this. So they've been reliant on the media. Now, the media historically in the West has been known as the fourth estate. The whole premise, man, is to condense some of the complexity of politics and provide it to the electorate in a fair, non-biased way. We don't have that in the slightest. So what did we see? We started to see a independent market emerge on social media. And then right away, all of these shills get in there. And again, I'm not gonna speak to their reasoning or their rationale for doing what they're doing, but there's a fucking layer of synthetic fake voices that their only premise for making content is to get a little click and to get a little share and to increase their revenue. Now, there's no problem with endeavoring to make money off of what you're doing. That's not what I'm saying, but that can't be your sole guiding force. It has to be the truth, man, especially right now. And I think, honestly, Nico, as dark as it seems and how they dominate the space, I think we're in the moment now where it's just never been more evident to people. And these people will call me out. Like that Cat Canada one, she made a video about me, making fun of me and stuff. And I'm like, Cat, come and debate me, darling. Sit down and debate me. I
They
want
won't.
to ask you why you're holding water for a party, and that's all
They
you're
won't.
doing. You're a cheerleader. Of course they won't, and we all know that.
They won't.
And that's what I said to her. It's like, you know that, so just move along. They're like the equivalent of some kind of political influencer class, and it's not real, man. But like I said, people are starting to see it, and I think it's incumbent upon us and people like us to call that shit out. Don't try to get in their club. Don't suck their ass and share their shit and like them and pretend like you have something in common. They are the antithesis of what you're trying to do if you're trying to speak the truth. That's all. I can't speak to the reasoning, but that's just evident to me at this point.
The fact that they won't debate me after I call them out, because I have about 200,000 followers, so you can't tell me that they don't see my messages. They follow me.
Mhm.
So I know they see what I'm talking about. I tag them in my posts. I talk to them directly. I'm not ashamed of what I have to say. I'm talking the truth. I don't really give a fuck what they say. But the fact that they will not debate me, they will not come on my show. There's just one, Mark Nixon, that actually accepted to come on my show, and we spoke. I'll give him, as much as we disagree, as much as I don't agree with his approach, I will still give him respect for having the balls to do it. But he's the only one.
I
He's
think
the
he might
only
be
one.
honest, though. I think he literally thinks that it's real. Like, he hasn't gotten there yet personally. I don't necessarily think he's being disingenuous, just because I've seen him go on other shows and kind of and debate his premise. That's the big thing, man. If you guys want to hold water for Pierre Poilievre, sit down and let's have a conversation. And I mean, that's the
But
biggest
they just
thing.
won't.
Of course
That's what's
not.
unfortunate.
Yeah, the
But that's
light
what's
will expose.
unfortunate. But that's what's unfortunate, because they will never put at risk their connections. They're so very, very, very easy to control. If all it takes for you is a little appearance from Pierre Poilievre on your podcast to keep you in line, ask yourself some serious questions.
Yeah.
Ask yourself some very serious questions. And the people out there that follow them, that believe in what they say, that support them, ask yourself a very simple question. Who do they work for? Do they work for you to bring you the truth, or do they work for somebody else to bring their version of the truth?
And just to keep us fighting, because that's what you're seeing. I see these fake right accounts arguing with these fake left accounts. You'll see, like, who's a big one in Canada? Rachel Gilmore arguing with the pleb. And it's like, oh my God, hold the phone, guys. This whole fucking thing is fake. It's not real. And it wants you to get on either side of it and argue with each other. It's like you say, and I say it frequently myself, it's not left or right, it's up and down. And I mean, we have more in common right now than we do otherwise. And we have to look at what unifies us. Our institutions are irredeemably subverted. So, I mean, that's one of the big ones. The weaponized mass migration has to stop. I agree as you do. After you said it, I realized, like, if we lose the freedom of speech, if we lose that right, we can't fight anything else. So, I mean, we're in the end game here. They're literally transitioning Canada into an unrecognizable shade of totalitarian shithole. And I really appeal to everyone to just wake up. Wake up. And while you're waking up, share the stream, please. We got about 300 watching, and it's the only way to get the message out. So with that said, Nico, I'm gonna go through some of these questions here, and we'll do a few questions, and we'll wrap her up at the hour.
Sounds good.
So we got Peggy here. The saying politics is downstream of culture. The foundation of our culture is broken.
Very well said.
Yeah, we were touching.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say if politics down from culture or culture is down from politics, but they're both associated to each other. They're both. One like, influences the other.
It's like, is it life imitating art or art imitating life? It's a similar paradigm.
I think that right now in Canada, culture is influencing politics. The reason that a guy like Mark Carney was installed or selected is because of the very big woke mentality we have in Canada. But then you look at the US as the complete opposite. Politics is influencing culture, because love or hate Donald Trump, since he's been reelected, he has been able, conservatives have been able to be conservatives again. So politics is influencing culture. It really just depends where we're at. Right now, Canada's influence is influencing our politicians because they want to believe in the divide. In the US, it seems the culture is being influenced by the president, by his agree with him or not. It's irrelevant that you agree with him or not.
He's a
But to
force
say
of
that he's not,
nature.
you know, one thing is for sure, when he got reelected, I knew that I would never run of things to talk about. That's first. And
Yeah.
I knew that he does not believe in status quo. He will always try to move the needle, good or bad, however you feel about it. He's
Mhm.
always going to move the needle. And I'm really tired of that narrative in Canada to blame Trump for 11 years of liberal policies. He is not, is he taking advantage of our broken system? Abso-fucking-lutely he is. But we would do the same thing if the US was broken the way we are broken. So don't step off your high horse and just understand that at the end of the day, he's doing what he believes is best for his country. Again, believe that or not, he's doing what he's doing for Americans, not for Canadians. We
Mhm.
should do the exact same thing here in Canada, but clearly our prime minister doesn't care about Canada. He cares more about the WEF. He's going to be there on the 17th, by the way. He's going
Yeah,
to be
it's
attending the WEF conference for 4 days in Davos, Switzerland, probably finding ways to make more money for Brookfield and to make sure to align Canada with Europe.
yeah, it's pretty wild. We live in a world where this man wrote a book called Values that
Yep.
meticulously details how he's going to transition a free market economy into a human values based economy. That's a semantical rebranding of Marxism.
100%.
This is in his fucking book. And then these guys, these
It's
oligarchs,
not in his book.
it
It's
is his
all.
book. Yeah,
That's
100%.
all he talks about.
100%. So then these
Yep.
oligarchs do a big meeting and we put the fucking thing on the internet. But I'm a conspiracy theorist because I want to talk about what they haven't planned for us, what they're telling us they have planned for us. It's nuts, man. The level of cognitive dissonance is Orwellian. It's like the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. That's where we're at with a lot of this stuff. But there's another one from Peggy here that's just too good to not share. Democracy means you have your natural resources exploited by multinational corporations and central banks. That's what it means now. I mean, you can't deny that. That's seemingly what the game is.
But they're the same people running everything, right?
Yeah.
They're running
Yeah.
government, they're running the world. If they were graphs, I don't know if they still exist. I should look for them again. But they were graphs made where they would show who owns all of the biggest corporations in the world.
Yes.
And it was like 20 to 30 people basically rule the world. And now with the Vanguards and the BlackRocks of this world,
Mhm.
because those weren't as prevalent, when those graphs were out like 10 years ago. But now you look at investment firms like the BlackRocks, the Vanguards, Brookfield being one of them too, to a very small, a much smaller level. But those people control the world by owning most of the companies out there, owning a portion of every single fucking company out there.
Mhm.
So you have very few people making decisions that will impact every single government out there. And we have a guy that was chair of one of those investment firms as our PM. Their value, their stock value has grown more than 33% since April, since Mark Carney was elected prime minister. 33% in a year. That's in a year since April. That's a great raise in price when it comes to their shares, and nobody questioned it. Nobody questioned the money he's sending to Ukraine.
Yeah.
$24.5 billion has been sent
Yep.
to Ukraine since 2023.
That's more than a
And
fourth of the entirety of our debt nationally. Our debt is about 80 billion. So that's more than 25% of our whole debt. It's wild.
And Carney has sent almost 10 billions just in the past 8
Mhm.
to 9 months. And people don't know that Brookfield has investments in the Ukraine. They have an IT park that they're invested in. They've been negotiating to have contracts for reconstructing Ukraine once the war is over.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a coincidence that Chrystia Freeland was the special envoy? Now she works directly for Zelensky. On one side, you have our government that's just sending money overseas to a corrupt government that is under investigation right now for being corrupt. The entity that runs their nuclear plant in the Ukraine is run by the government. I cannot remember the name. It's not an easy name to pronounce. but they just signed an agreement with Brookfield for them to provide through Westinghouse. People don't know. We all heard of Westinghouse, but
Mhm.
did you know that the vast majority of Westinghouse is owned by Brookfield? And they just signed a contract, not a contract, a letter of agreement for 9 new nuclear reactors that are estimated to be worth between 50 to 70 billion dollars. So RPM, the old chair of Brookfield, has been sending billions, almost $10 billion since April. And just is it's a coincidence that Westinghouse, that's owned by Brookfield, just got an agreement for 50 to 70 billion. You think that's a coincidence?
Well, and that's it. They're not thinking. They're not acknowledging it. They shut you down. It's easier for them to dismiss any type of a conversation like this than it is for them to acknowledge that hard reality, right? And that's something like you say, and I come to the same conclusion. We have to go through something harder, something to incentivize us to really start, okay, I got to figure this out. But we got
That's
another
the question
question.
I ask every single guest that's on my show. What do we need? What needs to happen in order for people to change? And anybody that I've asked that question all came to the same conclusion as us. It's going to need to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah,
We're
we
not
need
there yet.
a shock to the system, unfortunately. So that we got a question here, and it's good because we were touching on this topic a bit, how Pierre Poilievre lost his district. And then conveniently, they send him to Alberta. And this guy puts that cowboy hat on and a big old belt buckle, and now he's a rural Albertan again. I mean, that rang to me like, I mean, it was part of the script to quell the separatist movement.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. This is exact. Carney allowed Pierre Poilievre to run over there unopposed, basically. They didn't put anybody that could beat Pierre Poilievre in that riding on purpose to make sure that he had a job and he could appear as a choice and play the Alberta separatist movement, because this is something that my co-host and I have identified last year as being one of the biggest driving force in Canada. Unfortunately for them, Danielle Smith's a federalist, and she's been very clear recently about it. Just read the MOU that she signed with. I really like Danielle Smith until I read that MOU. I'm like, what the fuck is this piece of garbage? It is literally 2050 net zero agenda pushed by the WEF, word for word. Yeah. Just read the MOU. You don't believe me? Awesome. Don't believe me. Go read the MOU. Take 20 minutes and read that piece of garbage. And Danielle Smith has agreed to a carbon tax. She agreed to carbon capture, to the Pathway Carbon Capture project. She agreed to basically impact the price of their oil by about 20% on the world's market. They will end up, by my calculation, is somewhere between 20 to 30% above world market if they implement what's in that MOU. And then Trump turned around, our biggest customer, a country that buys 97% of our energy products, meaning oil, crude oil. They buy 97% of it. They found a country that they could take over their oil, which turns out they have the biggest oil reserve in the world that produce the same type of high sulfur oil than we do, that they already have all the infrastructure in Texas to make that oil good. And this is where we are. Our government is like nose in their finger in their nose saying, oh, we're going to go make more deals with China instead of dealing with a country that we have an agreement that's worth $950 billion a year. That's what Kuzma is worth, somewhere around $950 billion. And the way Venezuela is right now, you can plan that they will decimate at least 20% of Alberta's economy that comes from oil, their biggest import, in the next 3 years. It's not going to take 3 years.
Yeah, I agree entirely. And she actually, Danielle Smith, had the contradiction of the year in her speech she gave recently. She said, I'm for an independent Alberta within a unified Canada.
Yeah, so she says that all the time.
Fucking unbelievable. That's just the most ridiculous statement that I've heard in a very long time. But she says it all the time. Brand.
She says it all the time, but she's a federalist. People wouldn't be surprised if she Oh yeah, she's been very vocal about it recently since the MOU. She's not apologizing for being a federalist, but surprise, surprise, people are thinking she wants to be PM and she's going after Pierre Poilievre's job, which is why they're catfighting now. They don't like each other anymore. So people, if you look at politicians in Canada, our PM is more interested in making money for Brookfield and aligning us with the WEF than he is to represent Canada. Pierre Poilievre is more concerned about becoming PM and will do whatever it takes to remain the opposition leader because it is the easiest fucking job on the planet. Just contradict whatever the Liberals are doing and behind closed doors, vote for the Liberals. That's basically all he's been doing. He's been keeping them in power behind closed doors, but in front of the camera, he acts like he doesn't have anything in common with the Liberals. And that's the game they're playing. And then you have the person that's supposed to run a province that wants independence, at least we're going to see in the referendum this year. And she admits that she's a federalist.
Yeah.
This is how much played we've been. We've been played in Canada on the PM level, the opposition level, and the minister, not the minister, but the premier of Alberta that everybody had hopes in, realized that, oh damn, she is not for independence whatsoever. But do you think it's a coincidence that in Quebec we're having an election this year? And I don't cover a lot of provincial in Quebec because I really don't care about this province, but I'm still from Quebec. I spent half my life here. They're having an election this year, and the leading party to win by a massive margin, it's like 20 points, is an openly separatist party. They want separation. They're not going to wait 3 years to bring an independence, a referendum. They want to do, that's what they want from the get-go. So you have Quebec that's talking about independence. You have Alberta that's talking, and I'm not talking about the parties. Like the people in Quebec, a lot of people want independence. A lot of people in Alberta want independence. A lot of people in Saskatchewan wants independence. A lot of people in the north of BC wants independence. You're starting to see that happening everywhere, and this is not a coincidence. This is a direct correlation to how Ottawa is treating some of its provinces, and people had enough. And this is this is one of the things that bothers me, is how do you unify a conservative movement in Canada if some of the biggest provinces are not interested in being in Canada anymore?
Yeah, it's definitely a huge problem. You're seeing that a lot with Alberta separatists. They just given up. They say directly, I don't want to save Canada, I want to save Alberta. So I mean, it's the writing's kind of on the wall here, but as we say, it's going to be one hell of a year. Before we go, Nico, I want to give you a good chance to let everyone know where they can find you, especially on X, because as you said, you have a following on other platforms, but you're pretty low on X. So
yep.
Everyone
yeah, I barely post on X. It's just over the past few months I really started posting on X because I actually enjoy the platform. But at real Nico Lagan, super simple. Just look for NICO space LAGAN. There's no other people with that name out there. It's my name. So you can find me on X. I would highly, highly love the X love and the YouTube love, because I do run a live show 5 times a week with a liberal. As a Christian conservative, I record with a liberal every day. And we do talk about what needs to be spoken about, not what mainstream talks about, but what needs to be spoken. And we're highly, highly driven by deep dives. I do a lot of research for my shows, like at least 4 hours a day to get ready for every shows that I do. But the whole point of our shows is to encourage civil discourse. Both of us, he's not a liberal anymore. He voted conservative in the last election. I didn't vote at all because there's no party that deserves my vote by default. And we're political orphans. And I think there's a vast amount of Canadians that don't align with political parties anymore because they question too much and it doesn't make sense to them. So if that's how you feel, you have a place on our show. We take a lot of comments. We are absolutely driven by comments. So the Political Orphans, 7 p.m. Sunday to Thursday. Join us on YouTube or X, but at Real Nico Lagan's where you can find it.
Yeah, get out there and follow Nico. I'll tell you, if you trust me at all, like Nico and I align on practically everything. We've yet to find a part where we have a difference on. He's one of the real people in Canada that are trying to tell you guys the truth. So I strongly suggest you guys get over there and follow him sincerely. And I will, before I let us go here, I will appeal to you guys once more if you could share the broadcast. I received the majority of my views long after the live broadcast, so it's still very advantageous. So with that said, Nico, I want to thank you once more for coming on with me, brother. And we'll definitely
Anytime.
get you on again in the future, man. That's a great conversation.
Anytime, brother. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. My name's JP Berg, and this is Dumb the Wiser. Cheers.